Nadia. Now we turn to Irene Tinali, the head of the European Parliament Commission for Economic and Financial Affairs. Nadia, Irene, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. I'm really happy to be here. Thank you for inviting me, and this is also a sign of the recognition of the role of Parliament in the debate on the EU economic policy debate. It's wonderful also to be here, as Nadia said, with very like-minded people. The problem is that everything has already been said of what I wanted to say. I'm just kidding, but many things have been addressed, so I will just focus on some of the issues that we've been also discussing, debating in Parliament. Of course, we are all very happy about the response that the European Union has given in this year, as has already been said. And even if we think it was very rapid, even in the past month, if you think about the last time that you invited me here in Lisbon, how many things have happened in less than a month. So the completion of the ratification process, the advancement in vaccination, the approval of the first bunch of national plans. And if you think just a couple of months ago, there were commentators saying, they will never make it before the summer. But we did it. The second issuance of the bonds for the next generation EU. So I really think there is much we can be happy about, and certainly in Parliament we are all very happy about that. However, of course, there's no space for complacency because we do have many challenges ahead. And I'll just mention three. One is, of course, our short, medium-term objective, going back to have a full recovery. We know that the forecasts tell us that within the end of 2022 we will, probably be already recovered at the same level of the pre-crisis. But there is a warning here that also emerges from some of the debates. It's already been mentioned. Olivier Blanchard mentioned that it's not only about the quantity of the GDP that we will recover. There is an issue related to the quality of the growth that we will be able to put in place. And sometimes I have the impression that we do not include this enough in our indicators, in our analysis, in our debate. So how this growth will happen, how it will be able to address, as we said, inequalities, poverty, the challenges related to the transition, because that's the challenge that we are taking. We don't want simply to grow, we want to grow better, we want to accelerate on transitions that will be extremely complex and will have and could have undesirable social consequences as we transition to different models of production. So we have to be very, very careful in building a process that not only leads us towards a greater economic convergence, but also social convergence. Because if we do the opposite, if we push growth but we increase the social divergences in the Union, we will be in trouble. We will not only in terms of disaggregation of the single market, but I also think in terms of social and even political consequences that we have to think about. In our debate, we talk a lot about, of course, the economic indicators, but we have to think also about something precious that happened in this past year. The trust of the European citizens in the European institutions increased a lot, and these helped us all. It helped us in pushing these projects, in feeling more united, in keeping people at home, and in following all the guidelines we were saying, because we were all united and we showed how effective the European institutions could be for the common good of the European citizens. But if we fail to achieve this real, the future targets in terms of addressing inequalities, addressing the transition, if we fail this trust can be destroyed. and the consequences could be devastating. So I think this is something we need to look into. So this is the first challenge, is also about the quality of the recovery we will have in a couple of years. The second consideration is we know what our final target is. What is our final destination in 2 years? We don't think as much about the journey. How do we get there? It's a very short term, I know. But we all also know that it will not be completely smooth and linear way. There will be bumps, and we already see some of these bumps. Paolo mentioned some of them. So there are the recovery. The crisis has been very peculiar, unique crisis, but even the recovery is very peculiar. Some sectors have been picking up very early, very quickly. Other sectors still have to pick up, are still struggling. Others will probably never be back to normal because they will completely changed. Other industries that flourished during the pandemic now are struggling a little bit because consumers' behavior are changing again. So, and so what we are seeing, for example, there are some surges in demands in some sectors that are putting pressures on access to raw materials. The international supply chains are not completely fully recovered and reestablished. So we see volatility in prices, but especially we see delays in supplies, which are creating tensions in local markets, especially for small, medium firms. We also see shortages and problems, as Olivier mentioned, in the labor market. And we will have to monitor these bumps because, especially, for example, in the labor market, it's not so clear how long they will last and to what they are related. Are they related to a reluctancy of people to go back to their previous jobs, or are they due to a completely misalignment of the supply demand? Because we are putting a lot of investments in sectors, in process, to make them be completely different, more digitalized, more innovative, more sustainable. And this requires completely different labor force. But the speed at which we are retraining and preparing the labor force is not the same of the speed that we are, using in our reforms and investments. So these are things that have to be monitored. It's true, it's temporary. I'm sure we are all aware of the fact that these are temporary misalignment. But when you talk about small, medium firms, when you talk about a young worker that came out of university last year, has been unemployed for 1 year, and it probably takes another 1 year before he can get a real job. This is something that has a long impact, a deep scar on their life, and can have deep consequences in our societies. So I encourage to monitor and follow up, not only to look at the destination, but at the journey, even on a short-term basis, and to be as fast and effective to address these bumps as they come up, as we were during the pandemic, because they can bear scars. And the third point is the medium long term. So this is something that has already been mentioned, and Bruno, especially about the vision. What will happen next? After we have gone back to the not only the pre-crisis levels, is it done? Can we say that we have accomplished what we wanted to do, or are we probably just at the beginning of the big transformation that we want to achieve, of a leadership of the European continent that we want to achieve in the global scenario, a leadership in innovation, a leadership in the technological frontier, sustainability, and honestly, do we really believe that all the objectives that we put on paper in terms of the climate neutrality, in terms of digitalization, will be accomplished in 5 years? I'm not sure. I don't think so. I think we will need huge, huge efforts, investments, projects, initiatives, greater integration of and coordination if we really want to continue this path. And therefore, it is important to ask ourselves, are we equipped well enough in terms of economic governance, in terms of budgetary instruments, in terms of political integration and coordination, to do this path, to really accomplish the things that we have in mind right now. So that's why in Parliament, for example, we've been debating a lot about the economic governance. I see Margarida Marques, she's been the rapporteur of an important report on this, and I'm sure she will talk about the Parliament position on this important topic in the next panel. But this is something of the utmost importance that we need to discuss. Because otherwise we really risk spoiling the beautiful momentum that we built in this past year. And by momentum, I mean not only for the growth, for the recovery, but as I said, also in terms of political trust of the European citizens and giving them the impression that we know where we want to lead them and they can continue trusting us. This is something that we should treasure and we should not betray, because really the future of Europe depends a lot on our capability to give concrete answers to concrete problems of the citizens. Thank you.